Hello there and welcome to Clever Stuff. Right here we've got a very special interview lined up. We've got Mr. Angad Dhindsa. He's from Razer Pay and he's heading the business in Southeast Asia.
If you have to accept payments, there are a lot of options. You can do bank transfers, FPX, do it now, the wallets, and you have the cards.
What do you think are the misconceptions that SMEs have about these payment digitalization?
Everyone's coming from cash, and you have to realize for centuries, right? This is all, cash has been the king. You have to take care of security. Cash can be stolen.
You mentioned that instant cross-border payments, they build on trust in seconds.
Initially, there was a journey where cash on delivery started happening, which said, don't worry, you only pay once you get your good.
Hello there and welcome to Clever Stuff. My name is Izul Islam. Right here we've got a very special interview lined up. Another corporate feature. We've got Mr. Angad Dhindsa. He's from Razer Pay and he's heading the business in Southeast Asia. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me, Juan.
Fantastic.
Great to be here.
Awesome. So before we begin, do introduce a little bit about yourself and Razer Pay. Tell us a little bit more about that.
So I head the business for Razer Pay in Southeast Asia. Razer Pay is the largest payment aggregator out of India. It's essentially what you use, like it's a payment gateway. That's how you accept money online. We are one of the fastest growing ones in Malaysia and we're rapidly expanding across Southeast Asia. So we're live in Singapore and Malaysia, hoping to go live in another couple of markets in the next 12 months.
Interesting stuff, interesting. Okay, so today's topic will be focusing a little bit about SMEs, making Southeast Asia's digital economy work for SMEs, which is the topic at hand. So I'm going to get straight to it. The first question. Previously, you've spoken about Southeast Asia's payment landscape feeling like it's, stitched together by mismatched parts. What are the biggest sources of fragmentation that you see today with regards to this?
So let's look at Southeast Asia, right? Let's look at Malaysia, for instance.
Okay.
If you have to accept payments, there are a lot of options. You can do bank transfers, FPX, you have do it now coming in, you have the wallets, and you have the cards. Now, when you start going out to various other markets, you go to Singapore, you have Pay Now, and you have the cards. There's smaller wallets in both the markets like Shopee Pay, and there are other wallets like there's Boost. Similarly, when you go to Thailand, there's Prompt Pay. Again, they have their own wallets like Line, True Money. The point is, think about a merchant who's looking to sell in Southeast Asia, right? If you're looking to sell in Thailand, Singapore, Indonesia has, again, tons of wallets. We sat down and counted and we said you need 25 to 30 integrations into different wallets, into different QR code schemes, doing bank and card acceptance. It is very fragmented. And it's challenging because these are not like, when you look at India and China, right? They're huge populations, but they have the same, compliance requirements and the frameworks that the central bank set there. Here, it's different. These are smaller countries where you have different requirements. So it's very difficult for somebody to just start selling in these markets and start accepting payments. And it becomes challenging because each of these markets, they like their own payment methods. It's not, all of them are not accepting cards, especially Southeast Asia. They're like what we call we use a lot of jargon, they're called APM first markets, alternate payment method first markets. So they're not accepting cards. A lot of people don't pay with cards in Indonesia, Thailand, and Malaysia. So that is where the challenge comes and that's where it's fragmented.
All right, yeah, definitely. I've been there, been to Thailand recently, been all the way to Indonesia. The amount of payment methods, you said 25 to 30 payment gateways or payment methods, alternate payment methods, APMs, it gets quite troublesome.
Especially for the merchants. I mean, it's daunting, and especially the moment you start going out of your metropolitans, it's daunting. And at the end of the day, very often you end up carrying cash as consumers, and merchants, you want to make sure you're accepting the payment methods that the locals are paying by, right? Because what we've seen is the moment you get the local payment methods in place, your conversion increases by a lot.
That's true.
You keep on hearing about conversion that I'll talk about, but conversion essentially means is 10 people come into your shop, are you able to take money from all 10 of them when they want to pay you, right? Imagine somebody says, I have only an Amex card, and you say, I don't accept Amex. That's a lost sale, and you don't want that happening.
That's true. All right, so moving on to my next question. We talked a little bit about SMEs here. Many SMEs, they want to digitize. You know, they often feel overwhelmed, okay? In your personal view, what is the single biggest barrier that are preventing SMEs from fully embracing, you know, these digital payments? Are they still reverting back to cash is king, or is it something more towards the line of simpler methods?
See, there's no going back to cash is king. I mean, it's really tough to go back there, and we can talk about why. So just talking a bit about, see, Razer Pay started off as the story goes. Now, we're a large firm valued at some $7.5–8 billion. When it started off, the two co-founders basically were looking to launch their own SME business. And it was so challenging for them to take it live and start accepting payments. They were like, hey, wait a minute, why don't I do this instead and start making payments easier? So it's tough to say one challenge, but let me talk about 2 or 3 challenges that SMEs face. The simplest one is just getting your KYC, KYB done. SMEs generally don't have the docs for whatever reasons, because they're bad actors. The payment service providers need to make sure that if I'm going to give this guy card acceptance, he's going to deliver the goods. So they face obviously hurdles of just coming into this economy and start accepting cash. Then SMEs have other challenges like them trusting the system, right? All this while you've been taking money, and suddenly somebody comes and tells you, hey, you know what, I'll give you your money after 3 days, which is what a settlement time period is. And I don't blame anyone, right? I mean, when you look at our countries like Malaysia, Thailand, Indonesia, Philippines, Vietnam, and I'll talk about India also because it's very similar to these. Singapore is a bit unique. Trust is hard earned. It's not, you don't trust everyone because there is fraud, and you know that's the way of life. So accepting payments later becomes a challenge. So that's to do with trust.
It's not only trust, but also the fact that some SMEs, some small businesses right now, they focus a little bit more on day-to-day expenses. You know, sometimes they just need to survive for the day. They need to actually, they require the payments on the day itself to start working for the next day as well.
So I think for SMEs, the other challenges are just knowing the advantages and disadvantages of what you're getting into. It's awareness. It's understanding what is the cost of accepting payments by cards. When am I going to get it? Am I going to get it the next day? Am I going to get it after 3 days? Understanding how does this help me? And there are a lot of ways it helps you, but there are some costs. So the transparency and trust is really important. And as you mentioned, right, payout timings. SMEs don't have very long working capital cycles. It's not like, hey, you know what, I'll get my money after a month and I'll figure it out. They don't have easy ways to get loans. It's important that they get their money in 2 or 3 days. And these are the things that they need to understand when they're getting into it. How much time do I get in? For us, the key challenge is how do I make sure that this person gets his money as quickly as possible in a completely transparent manner where he knows exactly what he's going to get from each payment method. What is the cost of each payment method?
Okay, so we talk about trust, we talk about fraud, we talk about all these things that SMEs need to look out for. What do you think are the misconceptions that SMEs, you know, have about these payment digitalization or this payment methods, this alternative payment methods, and what kind of misconceptions do they have, and how can they be corrected?
So I think the first misconception that I'll talk about is about cash, because everyone's coming from cash, and you have to realize for centuries, right? This is all cash has been the king. And the biggest misconception is that cash is free. When I accept money by cards or by alternate payment methods, I need to pay for it. Because cash is not really free. You have to take care of security. Cash can be stolen. You have to make sure that there are, you take the money, you go deposit in a bank. There is cost associated with all these things where you're managing cash, handling cash. You're doing reconciliations. How much money has come in? Are you making sure that you know exactly the right amount of money? There is no pilferation that's happening in the middle, right? there is a serious cost to cash. There's also a cost to just the consumer convenience. Anyone comes and gives you cash, do you have the right change? You're always looking for change. Does the guy have change? Do you have change? Are you going to say, I don't have change? The guy says, okay, fine, let me look around for change. I mean, those were very real things that used to happen earlier, which all these payment methods have solved. I think the other thing is understanding that digital payments is solving all these, but it's also solving for reach. The moment you start the entire e-commerce revolution, right? Everyone worked in a certain catchment area. If you had to go beyond that catchment area, you had to find ways and sell, a new shop or have a person selling there. Digital changes that. And especially in Southeast Asia, it takes you across the country and it takes you beyond the country. Everyone's selling across borders. And that's what digital payment enables you to do. If you're not accepting digital money, how are you solving for this cross-border acceptance of money? And there are costs if you start doing COD, etc., that I'm happy to talk about. The biggest problems that I see in COD markets, which is cash and delivery markets, is money comes in, the guy looks at the thing and says, I don't like it, I want to return it. And all of us knows the cost of sending a thing back is 3x or 2x cost. The return cost is so crazy, most of the sellers just write off those costs.
Yeah, it's a huge risk as well, especially for COD markets. But yeah, I like how you think about cash not being free. Cash is not king anymore. It is a good concept as well, and definitely a misconception that they need to start correcting, especially as we move towards the future, as we start, expanding our cross-border payment methods as well as cross-border trading. Now, my next question will be focusing on payments should enable business, not slow it down. Okay, what does that look like in practical terms for especially a small business owner, either in Malaysia or Singapore or even in Indonesia or Thailand? That quote, enable business but not slow it down. You mentioned earlier about the 2-3 day turnaround. How does that work?
So when you think about payments, right, as anything in the digital world that works really well is when it simply gets out of the way and lets you do what you want to do, right? Whether I'm talking on WhatsApp, WhatsApp gets out of the way and allows me to talk to you easily. Mm-hmm. Same way, payments in my mind is best when it gets out of the way, so smooth you don't even notice it, and it allows you to buy. Nobody's goal is to make a payment. The goal is to buy something. You're paying for a service or something. So how do you do that, right? Think about the journey of an SMB. When he's onboarding, there's a long KYC and KYB journey, which is know your customer. These are compliance requirements that the government and the regulators want us to do, which allow us to make sure that there are no bad actors, there's no money laundering happening. But simple things for a merchant is, what is the most important thing for a merchant is, I want to know how much money I'm getting and what is the cost of me accepting that money. Now, let's take an example. Imagine you're an SME. You don't do too many transactions a day. You do 20 to 30 transactions a day. Some money comes in by card, some comes in by, say, a wallet that you use, say TNG wallet or something like that. There is different cost on card acceptance. There's different cost on TNG wallet acceptance. There are different payout timelines in cards. There are different payout timelines on TNG. So now you're seeing after 3 days, I'm supposed to get my money, or 2 days, and you're looking 2 days, okay, I was supposed to get 99% of the money next day for cards and the day after that for wallets. 30 transactions a day. The next day you're trying to reconcile for some transactions, and the day after you're going to reconcile for some, and you're reconciling for the previous transactions that are coming in. Very quickly, this starts getting into a nightmare. What do? You're like, okay, let me hire a guy to do my reconciliation for me. That's an additional cost. So for us, the key challenge is how do I make it so easy that you just get a report at the end of the day and it's like a 5-minute check, it's all done. How do you simplify all these complexities that the new digital era and different payment methods bring?
I think it's a given fact. I mean, with that in mind, shouldn't that be something that is already given? Something that is already available for SMEs, not even SMEs, but all business owners?
You'd be surprised when we talk to, forget SMEs, when we talk to enterprises, there are rooms full of finance and accounts people who spend time on doing reconciliations, who are spending time on, what we haven't added to it is, there's a complexity of returns now. Out of those 30 things, you're returning 2 things. So the money needs to go back, and you need to make sure then you're getting the right reimbursement on the payment method and that money is going back. And this is getting cumulative, right? That's day one. Day two is you're dealing with those 30 and some money's coming in. Day three, some money's coming in and then 30 more transactions. Very quickly it goes out of proportion and there are teams who sit and do it. And it's I also find it amazing, like you, why aren't people using simple and easy tech to solve it? And that's what we're doing here. We're making sure it's as simple as just, at the end of the day, getting a simple recon report that tells you this is the money you're supposed to get today, this is the money you're going to get tomorrow, and it's as simple as that.
Okay, so this is something that we did touch on a little bit. My next question is about trust. You know, you mentioned that instant cross-border payments, they build on trust in seconds. How crucial is this trust factor in shaping the future of SME trading here in Southeast Asia? How important is trust?
So let's go back and see how e-commerce grew. When you look at the growth of e-commerce, say in India, again, nobody trusted anyone when they were selling things. I'm used to going to the market, paying money and picking up my pair of shoes and I know exactly what I've gotten. In e-commerce, fulfillment is happening after like a week or maybe 3 days, right? And I'm paying my money to someone and he's going to ship that product. Obviously, there were a lot of people who were going around and not sending stuff. So initially there was a journey where cash on delivery started happening, which said, don't worry, you only pay once you get your good. Then they got rid of cash on delivery because there were a lot of challenges with cash handling and people just saying, oh, you know what, I'm not in the mood to take this. There was a cost of returns. China solved it in a very different way where they started doing Taobao. When you look at the history of Taobao, how it grew, it was about having an escrow. They put in an escrow, the money stayed in the escrow until the consumer said, I got my goods. And that really exploded Taobao. This was the tale of Taobao versus eBay if you read those classic case studies. Trust is paramount. Nothing works without trust. In Southeast Asia, again, there used to be a lot of social selling. And the sellers work really hard to build trust, to get the right recommendations. Sadly, they're not ratings everywhere other than the large platforms. So when you're selling as a D2C brand, you're a social seller, you need to build trust. So from a consumer perspective, there's a lot of trust that's needed. And there is about trusting then the payment service provider. Now, when you're looking at a payment service provider, you're dealing in money. If the money doesn't come in, it changes everything. It's not like, say, even a social media app, right? Your like button is not working, life will go on. If you suddenly stop my sales for 1 or 2 days, that will rock an SME's life. So it's very important for us to make sure that we're earning their trust. We're delivering day after day. System outages are literally, we operate at 99.9% system being up. So that trust is built by just every single day delivering the goods that we're supposed to deliver. And that's paramount. Without that trust, everything falls apart.
That's true. I mean, we all see now every app has a review rating system that can build trust and also destroy it at the same time.
So what we haven't done is in India, and we will at some point of time, it'll come here, we started giving our merchants ratings. So as a payment gateway now, obviously you have ratings in large platforms like the Shoppees and Lazadas of the world. What happens to guys who are selling on WhatsApp, who are selling on social media, who are selling on D2C brands? We started giving them preferred merchant tags or trusted merchant tags, which really drove their sales because people started trusting them.
Sure.
Then the other thing that we launched recently was we said we'll give customer protection. I know this merchant, I've been looking at his transactions for the past 3 years. If he doesn't deliver the good, I'll reimburse you your cash.
Wow.
So those are things that can be built over time. Once you're studying and you know you've been with the merchant for a long time, you know this guy delivers the goods. And those are some of the things that I think will be very useful in Southeast Asia.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, you take a look at Instagram's blue badge, maybe you can come up with Razorpay green badge or something, because it's when people look at it's the optics. It's when it comes to optics, it's everything. People see that, they'll know, okay, they trust the guy, he's reliable, definitely won't be a scammer in any way or form. But of course, we go into the question of those things can be faked as well with AI and everything, which we'll be talking about later. But before we continue with AI and technology, we'll talk about Razer Pay. Okay, Razer Pay, you guys are championing all these alternative payment methods. We've got QRs, wallets, even local APMs. Now, Why do you think these channels are essential for SME digitization in the region? Of course, we've talked about the convenience, we've talked about how fast they can be, how the trust that comes into all this. But what do you think Razer Pay is championing in terms of why these alternative payment methods?
So, and the funny thing is in Southeast Asia, the term alternate payment methods doesn't really stick because these are the main payment methods. When you look at FPX, we see literally 30% of online payments being made via FPX, which is similar to cards. The share of APMs or alternate payment methods in Thailand are exploding because of PromptPay is doing really well. Bank transfers was always big. The wallets have been doing really well in Indonesia. The wallets are doing really well. And then you have, again, Curis, which is growing. In Singapore, Pay Now is going. So let's break these into a couple of alternate payment methods. Can be wallets or can be account to account. Account to account is do it now, where you're just sending your money from your account to another account via a QR code or a phone number or whatever. Account to account is one of the, it's literally growing, I think, at 50% year on year in Southeast Asia. And the wallets are still growing. So most of these markets, they're not card first markets. They are more account to account and wallet first markets, with an exception of Singapore, which is a card first market. So when these are the main payment methods, as a merchant, if you're not offering them in Southeast Asia, you're just simply missing out on sales. It's as simple as that. If you're going to go there and you're going to say, hey, I want to pay by PromptPay or I want to pay by FPX, and you're going to say, I don't accept FPX, and the guy's like, I'm sorry, I don't have a card with me, then what do? You're screwed. It's as simple as that. So, which is why we see this in India. We've seen this journey in India where the dominant payment method is something called UPI. UPI drives 80% of transactions in India, online transactions. When it's 80%, you have to accept it. If you stop accepting it, you're kind of missing the point. So which is why it's really important for us to provide these alternate payment methods, drive innovation in them, so they are as useful as, they have functionalities that other cards have or other payment methods have. And the third thing why they're really important and why they've taken off like wildfire is because they're cheaper. If you look at the economics of payment methods, in some of the markets, cards are as expensive as 3%. Now imagine you're selling something for say $20, 3% of your top line goes to cards, and there's generally a fixed fee, so it comes to something like 4%. If that is your top line that's going just to accept payments, then on top of that, if your bottom line is say 25% of your top line, 1/4 of your top line, that means 12% of your bottom line you're putting aside just to accept money. That's off. That's not cool. And that's not going to fly. Which is why alternate payment methods, which are mostly cheaper than cards, a lot cheaper than cards, have really good traction amongst most of Southeast Asia and especially SMEs.
All right, fantastic. Okay, so my next question, we did touch on this a little bit earlier. It's AI. You mentioned about innovation, especially from Razer Pay. Now, there's a lot of hype right now around AI. You've taken a more pragmatic stance about AI. So tell us, what's realistically possible for SMEs today in terms of AI-powered prevention and reconciliation, especially when it comes to fraud? So tell us, will AI be make or break for SMEs?
No, I think, I know there's a lot of talk about AI. It's the number one buzzword around, but it is real, right? It's as real as it gets. And it's, for me, so there are two parts to it. How does AI impact SMEs in payments? And the second part is, how does AI impact SMEs? I don't think SMEs need to worry about AI in payments. It's going to be technical. And again, that's for us to worry about. How do we improve their life? And I can talk about what we're doing there. But SMEs definitely need to think about how AI is going to impact their business. You need to get onto the bandwagon. You need to learn more about it. It's already changing how things are happening. So let me talk about how AI is going to impact payments. It's going to touch every aspect of payments. For instance, when you're looking to onboard, right? I said the onboarding journey is painful. What we've started doing, and we've launched this in India, and at some point we'll be launching it in Malaysia, just to get all the information that I need from you, we say, give us your ID, give us your website name, then my AI engine goes and crawls your website, figures out what business you do, fills up the form for you, does everything. What used to take an hour or 2 hours for you to do, I can do it in like 4 minutes or 5 minutes, right? You just need to check, boom, that's done. And I have now the information that I know that I was looking for, which very often with SMEs, it wasn't 2 hours, they'll send the information, you'll be like, no, this is not what we meant, please send us this instead. So those new requests for informations would take long. So that's just the onboarding, right? Then, as you mentioned, risk checks. With the ML models that are there, which are constantly checking and building profiles of customers, there are going to be a lot lesser false negatives, and you'll be able to catch. Basically, what you want to do is you want to segregate the bad actors from the good actors. You want to celebrate the good actors, make sure they have the best experience, and you want to block the bad actors, which is what can be done on steroids now, courtesy various AI models. There is also about improving success rates and conversions, which is, like I said, if 10 people come to your shop, you want all 10 of them to be able to transact. Very often when you use your card or some payment method, it doesn't work. It's not because you don't have the money. It can be some system is down. And with AI models, real time, you can figure out what's down, where do I divert my traffic. You can do smart retries. There's a lot that you can do. So we do feel AI is going to help end to end. For instance, we've, along with the onboarding thing, we've launched something which is called Ray Concierge, or basically that helps you. Ray Copilot. Ray Copilot is our AI agent that helps you do any integrations that you need to do. So when you're onboarding and you need to do an integration, now it can be done very easily. The Copilot will guide you through it. Then there is the agentic agent, which is going to be really important, and this is something that we launched in India, and hopefully there'll be something exciting coming up in Malaysia soon, which is, if you're looking to accept money, say on ChatGPT, right? Okay. Or one of these GPTs, and you say, hey, show me the best, I'm looking to go to Venice, tell me about the hotels there. And like, these are the top hotels, these are my requirements, and it spits out those 5-10 hotels. Now, if you have the merchant on board there and integrated with ChatGPT, you can go ahead and say, I'm looking for a room which might be this is my budget. It'll give you the option, you say, pay. Boom. So now you're no longer browsing and getting information in ChatGPT or the various other GPTs, whether it's Gemini or whatever, you're actually making purchases. The AI agent has your card details or your APM details securely stored in that, and based on your approval, it can go ahead, based on authentication, it can go ahead and make a purchase for you, which is going to start changing the name of the game, right? So there's a lot that's going to happen in AI and payments, and there's a lot that's already going on. By the way, we've launched this in India, where you can just be saying, I want to make a dish. Say I want to make a hot soup. My mom sent me this hot soup recipe. The AI agent tells you, fine, this is what you need for it. You want me to buy it, you buy it, and the delivery guy sends it over. That grocery app sends it over to you.
Very convenient indeed.
It's insane. It's mind-blowing what's happening. But I think that's on the payment side of things. What's really important is for SMEs to understand how AI is going to change if they're in content. I mean, you guys are in content, right? I'm sure you guys are seeing the differences of AI, right? If any space, it's real, you need to get on with it. You need to figure out how it's going to impact you, because it's going to change lives. It's going to change how we do things. It's very real.
Of course, yes. When it comes to AI, there's a lot of benefits, especially how you explained it, the convenience, the way that it can integrate all these processes where you can just from one step to another without having to go through all the different other leeway steps or anything that's more time consuming. But then there's always the negative side. There will always be people who, of course, because it's new, AI is new. What do you think some of these SMEs often misunderstand about AI, specifically in payments? Or what are the things that they are more concerned about, when it comes to AI and payments?
I actually don't know if SMEs understand AI and payments.
They don't understand at all.
I don't understand. see, payment starts getting pretty technical. I want to know, so I don't fathom an SME thinking about AI and payments. I don't think it would be on top of their head. So I don't even know. I mean, like, think about, say, you guys, right? Do you think about AI and payments? Who thinks about AI and payments?
I mean, AI can be in anywhere right now.
I can understand what they can be concerned about is, if I start using, say, an agentic model, what if somebody's going to steal all my money from my card? That's what I would think.
That would be the main concern.
That would be the main concern, right? And all these things which are put in place are tried and tested. Will there be leakages? Mostly what you see is your fraud rates keep coming down as we innovate, but they're always bad actors. And there's always a cat and mouse chase happening, right? They are doing something better and you try and overcome that. But I don't think, again, I don't think AI and payments should be on top of mind of SMEs. I think AI in their business should be on top of mind of SMEs.
That's true. Okay, my final question for you. Okay, you've been mentioning a lot about all the different things that are happening in India, and I want you to elaborate a little bit about this. How is Razer Pay adapting, of course, from lessons from India, a far more mature digital payments market, to that of the Southeast Asia context? Right now, we've seen, you mentioned about all the AI that you've been launching in India, the new payment methods. How do we learn from India and put that into market here in Southeast Asia? Maybe you can tell us a little bit about that, and also end it off with a little bit about your future plans here in Southeast Asia.
So, India is what I mentioned, an APM first market, right? You have UPI driving most of the transactions. When I see the evolution of Southeast Asia, the wallets came first. The account to account came later, which is the Do It Now, Curious, PromptPay. They came later. But over a period of time, we see Southeast Asia account to account growing much faster than the wallets. The challenge that happens in wallets, and wallets are a bit like Chinese economy runs on wallets. They're two big wallets. Everyone's either on WeChat Pay or on Alipay, right? But they've started becoming walled gardens. They don't talk to each other. There's no interportability between them. Whereas in all the other Southeast Asian markets in India, we realize that interportability is important. There's a lot of fragmentation. In India, what they did was they said every QR should be read by the wallets and by account to account. This is what Singapore did. So, I mean, a lot of Southeast Asian markets are doing that, right? So, I think I see the evolution looking a lot more like India with the growth in account to account and focus on interportability. And when you look at India, eventually what we saw was account to account became the single biggest payment method. Why? Simply, it was real time, it was affordable for merchants and consumers, and then there were innovations that happened. Innovations are very important. Take, for example, when you look at I Pay by Apple Pay, it's so nice and seamless, right? You just make a payment. If I have to make an online payment using a QR code, which I see on my phone, I need to take a screenshot, save it, open a bank app, scan that screenshot, send it. Some point in time, there are going to be drop-offs, and it's just not that convenient. So in India, when you see how account to account evolved, you didn't have to take a screenshot. You just press a button, the app will open, and you could do authentication very easily, which can be, a PIN or something, and now you're going to have biometrics coming in. So that started becoming seamless, which also led to more uptake. Simple features. I want to pay recurring payments, right? I want to pay for my Netflix or any other subscription that I have. I need to save my card because that has recurring payments. You have recurring payments in India on account to account. So we haven't seen that in Southeast Asia. Hopefully it'll come very quickly and Do It Now. It'll come in others. But we have a lot of learnings from India that we want to share here. We want to work with the regulators. We want to work with the banks in driving that innovation because it helps SMEs. It lowers costs. It's real time. There are a lot of advantages of that. So that's one of the learnings. The other learnings are just operational efficiency, operating at scale. India's 1.3, 1.4 billion people. So anything that you do, you have to learn to operate at scale. What we say, like when there's a big sale, my transactions per second they need to be going at like 5,000, 10,000 transactions per second. And if I don't operate at that scale, the system goes down, like say in 1111 sale. Here, you need to bring the similar kind of scale which will help system doesn't going down. So I think there are a lot of learnings on building efficiency, learnings on account to account, and finally, the third thing I'll say is on SMEs, right? We've been SME first. We work with, I don't know the latest number, it's around 1 million SMEs or something like that in India. It's a really big number. And we built a lot of products that solve for SMEs. Like one small example is, SMEs generally don't have engineering teams, right? So if they want to get a website up and running, how do you get that done in 5 minutes where I give you a web page builder? You just need to punch in your details, start accepting payments. Simple things solving for SMEs at different levels. So those will be the 3 things that I think we bring from India. And what is next? I think that's the idea, right? Bringing all this takes time. We want to bring this to each of the geographies. Malaysia is our first market where we launched. It's a very dear market for us. We want to make sure that we bring these products and features in Malaysia. We launch them. We want to do the same in other markets in Southeast Asia. Singapore, we're already live. We want to start going live in other markets. So it's about building this product suite here and innovating for the locals. We are not, the way we are operating here is we're investing in the region. We're hiring people who are locals because we want to make sure that we are building for the needs of the locals, right? So that's what we want to do. We want to stitch it all together. And the final thing that we want to do is the fragmentation that we kicked this conversation off with, we cater to that fragmentation. So summing it up, bring the tech and the learnings over here and stitch up the market and build for the local markets and the local needs.
Fantastic. Nice way to end it. Thank you so much, Angad, for everything that you've shared with us today. Definitely a fruitful conversation. We hope to see you again soon, and we wish you the best of luck for your upcoming opportunities here, especially in the Southeast Asia market for Razer Pay. All right, and that is all we have for today's corporate feature interview right here on Clever Stock. My name is Wanizul Islam, and we'll catch you on the next one. Until then, have a wonderful day ahead. Thank you very much.
Scan now and download Cleverstock, your trusted source for market insights.